Hi, we are My Dying Day. We'd like to tell you a little bit about how we use MainStage as our complete digital backline. We use one computer to do pretty much all our signal processing. It executes our backtrack, click track, monitoring, effects, guitar amp modeling, bass amp modeling, cabinet modeling, drum dubbing. Well, pretty much all the sound coming from the stage. It's like having the studio with you on the road, actually. There are links to all the relevant websites in the About box. The sound quality is awesome. We have almost the same sound live as we have on our recordings, and it's easier to set up. We just hook mics, instruments and MIDI controllers into MainStage and send a stereo signal to the front of the house. Let's start with a tour of our rehearsal space. So here it is, our rehearsal space. As you can see, we have a drum kit and we have some PA speakers. But there are no amplifiers at all. A DIY MIDI floorboard made with Midibox components, and I can basically control MainStage. This one button right here shuffles from the previous and next song in our set list. Just show you all on the screen what it looks like. So next song like this, and then previous song, like this. A bit tricky. And here's a song that starts. And this is where we come in, but obviously it's only me in the rehearsal room now and I'm filming, so no guitars and drums or anything right now, but I'll put on some live clips later. The bass player setup over here is a bit more simple. He's basically just got some pedals right here. Maybe let's go over here to the other guitar player. This is a Uno X upgraded behringer MIDI board where you can basically choose guitar sounds with the different buttons down here. You can choose different sounds. And he's got some different guitar effects, which is like stomp boxes up here, which you can turn on and off. And then he's got an effect board here with some different pedals that he likes to use in front of his amps over there. We are running two different emulated amps for him. We've got a 5150 emulation and then a Engel Powerball emulation. The Engel Powerball is the Lepou freeware version, which is definitely the best sounding one we've tried. We all run through one of these, which is a passive DI box from behringer. It's pretty cheap. And finally, here's my setup as you saw before, but what I have done here is a little bit more elaborate. I've got my 4 different guitar sounds right here. I've got a clean, crunch, drive and a lead. I've got a mute switch here, which also turns on the tuner, which is up here. I've got a boost, and I've got a dim, and then these last buttons here are for controlling the MainStage. The rotary encoders on top, the first 8 up here controls gain and master volume on my 4 settings, my 4 guitar settings, and the last 7, because this one over here is tuner of course, controls the levels of my in-ear monitoring. Just look at the hardware itself. Right, the bottom part down here, we have a rack-mounted PC, but it's a Hackintosh. So it's basically PC hardware running OS X. On top of that, we have a Mark I Motu 896 Firewire audio interface. It's basically just 8 inputs and 8 outputs. And on top of that, we have a couple of in-ear monitors, one for the drummer and one for me. And then on top of that we have the behringer Auto Gain Pro 8 Digital, which is just basically 8 extra mic inputs and 8 extra balanced outputs. So basically what we do is we hook the guitars into the DI boxes and then into the audio interface, the microphone into the audio interface. And then one last little bit we have trigger I/O for the acoustic drum kit. So the drums are basically being live dubbed with samples in MainStage. And as you can see on each of the drums there is this little drum trigger right here. So here it is, Apple MainStage. It's basically a live version of Logic. So you got pretty familiar channel strips over here. And then you got this GUI, which you can design yourself. And let me just show you how we use the GUI. I'll just go into full screen mode here. So it's basically like a little mixer we've got here. You can see all up here we have all our monitor sends, which is monitor for me, Anders, monitor for Kim, monitor for Jeppe, the drummer, and monitor for Thomas, the bass player. So we all have these individual sends, which go to our in-ear or our stage monitor. Down here we have some effects we can turn on and off. Everything we can control by MIDI, of course. And then we've got ordinary volume sliders down here. So all the buttons are effects, and all of these are sends and different other functions we can control like this. We've got a MIDI input from the drummer's triggers, so we have samples playing when the drummer is playing. Down here is basically just controlling my guitar amp, but I'll explain more about this later. Out here we have our set list, and this is our current set at the moment, and here are all our old songs which we're not playing. So basically that's it, and everything is controlled by MIDI floorboards. I'll just show you briefly how each of the channel strip works. Very simply, if we start in here with the main vocals here, we have an equalizer, a compressor, and an effect which is turned off now, which is a filter effect, and a noise gate. That's basically it for the vocals. When we come to the guitars, it's a bit more elaborate. I'll show you my own guitar setting over here. I've got a tuner to begin with, and a noise gate. I've got a stomp box, which is a tube screamer from Igniteamps. I got the Igniteamps 3-channel preamp, and the Igniteamp power amp right here, which is set up to run with KC88 tubes. And then finally I have the Recabinet, which is basically an IR file which I made myself. Recabinet is a really cheap piece of software, and it just lifts it a little bit from the ordinary IR loaders because it adds a little bit of dynamics to the speaker. It sounds a little bit better. It's really cheap, so and fast and real time, which of course we need. Let me just close these windows down. Now, speaking about real time, a lot of people ask me, what about latency? Don't you have like huge amount of latencies? And we actually don't. Right now you can see the processor is running red, but that's mainly because I'm running the screen recording software. When that's not running, it's actually not in the red. It's doing fine. But let's just have a look at our audio configuration preferences. That's it. If you look at the audio right here, we're using the Motu Mark of the Unicorn interface right here, and you can see I've set the I/O buffer all the way down to 64, which gives us a latency in 5.6 milliseconds. I mean, that's virtually nothing. That's like, as it says, like standing 2 meters away from your speaker. That's it. Which is, I mean, we can't feel any difference. I'm pretty sure if you have digital processors on your guitar or vocals, you're going to have the same latency anyway. So it's basically more or less real time what we're dealing with here, and it's all digital, so it all sounds exactly like we want it to sound. We've all mixed it in advance, so when we're playing live, we basically just give a stereo feed to the front of house, and we have our own monitor sends and everything. So it's pretty easy to set up, and we just hook our guitar straight into it. So when playing live, the sound engineers simply have to match our stereo signal to the live drums. That's it. Obviously, if our computer crashes, we can't play at all, but that hasn't happened yet. We've played one venue where the front of house simply was too weak to get a decent sound, especially for the bottom end. But other than that, I mean, it's really, really cool. By the way, the computer is a Intel i5 processor running at 2.5 gigahertz with 8 gigs of RAM, so it's pretty standard. Here's how we do the vocals. Basic Logic equalizer and a basic Logic compressor like this. When I'm just talking and the mic is not going to do anything, but if I just hang on a second. Hey! It's actually compressing just a little bit, which is nice, and then I've engaged the limiter so we don't have any too hard signals going through it. A noise gate, of course, as you can probably hear. Now I'm just talking, and then a little bit of reverb and delay, and then all our monitor sends and long delay as well.
I have this little filter EQ, which by now is bypassed. But if I engage it on my effect board here, you can hear that my voice actually changed into this filter effect, which we use quite a bit. I have another effect, which is like a throw delay. You can see this send down here, which is called long delay. It's not doing anything, but if I press a button down here, it actually sends. So anything I'm saying while this button is depressed is gonna have echo. And when I release the button, it's not having echo. It's a pretty cool little thing, and it's obviously in time with the song's BPM, so the echo will be in time with the song. Now, guitar amp modeling has come a long way in the last couple of years. We were very skeptical, but we checked out a couple of plugins and got really amazing results. Here's one of our tests. You'll hear two clips, clip A and clip B. One of them is a real angle Powerball through a Marshall 1960 cabinet mic'd up with a SM57. The other is 100% emulated. Can you spot the fake one? I'll give you the answer at the end of the video. So here's a little bit about our guitar setup. That's about it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Oh, by the way, clip A was the real guitar amp and clip B was the fake one. I'm not saying it's impossible to hear the difference, but it's pretty damn close if you ask me. So, rock on!